you understand that you need to learn how to build a web application first. But the question is, which one should you learn first? Which programming language that you need to learn before you begin your career, right? Now, the easiest way to pick a programming language to learn is to look at which programming language is the most popular one. Because from a career point of view, if you learn a popular language, meaning that the chances of you getting hired is very, very high. From a technical point of view, right, from a startup or from a company point of view, if you build your product around a language that is very, very popular, meaning that it's a lot easier for you to hire people, right? If you build on some language that is, let's take a look at the chart, right? Now, the most popular language here is JavaScript, Java, PHP, Python, C++, C#, and CSS. Now, somebody asked about C++. I make a joke that I say it's old school, but classic is the best. The reason why C++ is old school, but it is still relevant at this stage, like after so many years, is because a lot of the underlying systems are still written using C++ as a language. Whether your hardware ROM, your Wi-Fi, your router, many of them, even your operating system like Linux, Mac, or Windows, the underlying core, most of them were written in C and C++. Now, another thing that you would have noticed is that most of the language in your top 5 or top 10, right, they are basically web programming language. So unless you have once again, you have the requirements from the company that you need to learn all those language that's non-mainstream like Fortran, Erlang, functional programming, or you are into IoT, you want to learn how to build Arduino, that's a different story. Otherwise, your safest bet is always go to those languages that's very popular. Now, what are the most popular languages in the world right now? I show you statistics, right, from different sources. You can go through all the different index, computer language, popularity charts, billboards, or whatsoever. You will always see the same language that tops the chart, right, which is JavaScript, HTML, CSS, SQL, and Python. Now, Java, C++, C# are still relevant because we still use them a lot in our what do you call that? The legacy enterprise systems. So that's why they are relevant and still quite highly used. So the most popular programming language, right? The four most popular ones that you will see in the market are usually like the examples that I show you, right? JavaScript, PHP, C# or Java, and also Python. Now, I did not include HTML and CSS because they are not programming language, they are markup language. So we use them to define our documents, to beautify our code, as in beautify our web page when they are viewed on the browsers. But we do not use them in the same way like we use programming language. In fact, the programming language that I show here are to generate HTML codes for our web pages. Okay. Now, first of all, let's look at JavaScript. JavaScript is the most popular programming language when we use it to write scripts. Now, if you're not familiar with scripting language, right, don't worry about scripting and interpreted language. A scripting language basically is something like JavaScript, Python, Ruby. You compile the language on the go. Interpreted language is the language that you will see things like an exe file, or a jar file, or a DLL files. So you see this a lot when you're using Windows, right? Okay, and JavaScript is natively supported by desktop and mobile applications, so mobile browser. And also, it is the only language that can be used by both front end and back end, supported by Node.js. So for this part, right, you just have to understand that all the platforms, right, that you can see on the market, like Xbox, PS4, your desktop, your mobile, your gadgets, even Raspberry Pi IoT devices, all of them can support JavaScript. Long story short, all right, if you don't know which programming language to learn first, learn JavaScript. All right. So the second language is PHP. PHP is a very powerful language because it's used for general scripting purpose for web development. I wouldn't say it's powerful in the sense of its functions, but it has a lot of frameworks that people has built to target different kind of use cases. You have Laravel, you have you have Code Igniter. These are the popular PHP frameworks. It's very easy to learn at the beginning, but things get messy when the projects become large. Now, why is PHP a reliable and good language for you to learn if you need to have another programming language as a backup? Because large companies like Google, Facebook, um, or Uber, all these companies, right? Most of the time, they have a part of their core programs are written in PHP. PHP powers about 60 to 70% of the websites on the market right now. Okay, even like sites like WordPress, our Delete.io, or a lot of e-commerce sites, they are all written using PHP. Okay. Now you might be wondering, you say, Dr. Rao, that's not true, right? A lot of people say, oh, you even I myself, if I've attended my other webinars, I encourage people to learn Python or R, either one, if they want to become a data scientist or they want to venture into data science. Now, if you want to venture into data science, then you can learn Python. The reason why we use Python is because there are a lot of free packages out there that allow you to do or tackle a lot the data science tasks like machine learning tasks, natural language processing, text analysis, so image processing even, right? Those are the tasks that can be done by Python. But Python itself, when it comes to web programming or when it comes to building product, is a rather less comprehensive language. I wouldn't say it's weak, but don't get me wrong, right? That's just for the web development portion of software development portion. As a scripting language, is very easy to learn, is very beginners friendly, and the performance, the processing speed, everything is good. Yeah, it's just that if you were to learn how to build a web applications, how to develop a product, it might not be the best language out there. So long story short, I prepared a table for you. If your role is to become a front-end developer, you definitely have to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Once again, JavaScript is the only language that is supported by by your browsers, by all browsers, meaning that your Google Chrome, your Safari, your Firefox, all of them supports only JavaScript at the time I'm speaking. Okay. Now, I have learned JavaScript since 1990, yeah, 1991, and it has been going strong until today. Now, if you don't really like front-end development and you want to become somebody who is more involved in the back end, then you can learn the following language. You can learn PHP, you can also learn JavaScript, or you can also learn C#. Now, what are the differences between all these when it comes to applying them? PHP is a very common language, right? Very popular language. JavaScript is the only language that you can learn and write it from back end and also front end, meaning that you can use Node.js to run your JavaScript to build web applications for your back end. And C#, if you are working in the companies that has legacy old school software, then you probably need to learn C#. Now, if you want to build software for desktop applications, then you just learn Java, C#, C, or C++. All right, these are the programming language that you need when you need to build software for desktop applications. When I say desktop application, it does not limit it to any platform like Windows, Mac, or even Linux, right? Because C and C++ is a very common and very popular language for softwares. Let me take this question. Yeah, Tubaga say, how about someone who don't have a degree in IT? If you don't have a degree in IT or CS, right, it doesn't stop you from learning how to code. That's my usual comment for everybody, whether you want to become a data scientist or you want to become a software engineer. Your age and your background shouldn't stop you. I'm lucky because when I studied that time, I already know what I want. But a lot of my friends who who didn't end up in a software career, right? They probably took other things like some of them become psychologists, some of them become pharmacists, but most of them went into like marketing, business admin. But as Ruben has told you all, right? Um, if even if you become a digital marketer, right, you still need to learn how to write codes, because coding is like English in the 21st century. Everybody communicates in some sort of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript form, especially if you are in business, right? Is Python used for back-end or software development? Yes, you can use Python to write codes for your back-end web applications, but very, very little portion of that. Now, if you look at the examples here, right, Python is only used for micro web services like using Flask, or you can build a more large scale application using Django. Usually people who use Python is to build web applications is because their core system or their core analysis business logic are running on Python. Like a lot of data scientists, we not to say we are lazy, but we just want to streamline the entire thing, right? So we can take our analysis code from data science and then we put it into Python and then we use it. Otherwise, there isn't any too much of advantage of using one language over another. Like we choose to use JavaScript because of its performance issues, and JavaScript is very good at asynchronous requests. Now, for those of you who don't understand asynchronous requests, is that you don't have to wait for the calls to come back. Let's say I want to load data from 3 websites, A, B, C, right, from 3 data sources. If it's in a sequential model, I have to call A and wait for A to finish to call B and wait for B to finish to call C. But if you use JavaScript, right, JavaScript is asynchronous. I can call A, B, C at the same time. Then whoever comes back to me first, I will process accordingly. Okay. All right. So last question before we move on to the next one, because this is very relevant. Ramesh say, I want to learn you want to learn Python scripting for automation. Do you need to learn JavaScript before that? No need. You can go straight to learn Python because it's a programming language by itself, right? You can use that for automation. But once you want to turn your automation results, right? Let's say you want to have a user interface, like my students in Intel, they are all very good Python developers. But when they want to turn their legacy, not to say legacy, their manufacturing codes, their maintenance codes from Python into a web applications, right? That is when they need JavaScript, because JavaScript is the only language, once again, only language that browsers understand. So if your browsers need to talk, they need to talk in JavaScript. Okay?